Hey folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and today we are doing part 2 of the hashtag Autumn Garland Cal 2024. So it is the second Saturday in the month of October. We have already done one piece of our autumn garland. We've looked at some acorns, and so this week we are looking at another natural element to add to our garland. It is mushrooms. So before we get into it, if you're new here, this October, I am releasing a video every Saturday in the month of October 2024, and it's featuring some free patterns, maybe tutorials, maybe written patterns of different little natural elements that you can crochet, that I can crochet, and then at the end of the month, we'll put them together into a very festive little garland to decorate our homes, decorate our offices, something like that. Just a way to bring the outdoors in and to kind of feel festive as the seasons change. If you do want to participate, I'm really excited to have you. Make sure that at the end of it that you will take a picture and email it to me. My email address is linked below in the description box, but get that to me by October 30th. So that way by the first Saturday of November, I can do a recap video and show everyone's beautiful garlands that we have created. If you happen to be in the Southern Hemisphere and you are getting ready for spring, I will also have a couple of patterns linked below that you might be interested in that are kind of spring themed, and also maybe a nod towards maybe a spring themed garland that we'll do in the future. Who knows? But for now, let's get into the mushroom patterns. Now, y'all, if you know me, I love a happy little mushroom, and so this was a lot of fun picking out some patterns that I could feature. I am using Lion Brand mandala yarn throughout this crochet along, and so you'll see some different colors popping up there. So the first pattern that I want to show is my absolute favorite mushroom pattern. It was introduced to me by a dear friend who actually made a beautiful garland using this pattern of mushrooms, and I begged her to tell me where she got it from, and she said it was in the yarn garden, the colorful mushrooms. And this is how mine turned out. I just did the one this time. I've made this many times in the past. I've made some beautiful mushrooms and toadstools as like Christmas tree ornaments, but this time I wanted to go for that kind of aqua blue color. And what I really, really love about this pattern, well, a couple of things. Number one, you start with a stem and you go up, but I love how doing some post stitches creates those beautiful gills. Then when you do the cap, as you create it, you end up crocheting it onto the stem or the foot. So you don't have to sew anything together, you're crocheting it all together. Also, in my opinion, probably pretty easy to modify a little bit. You could get the same kind of feel and you could play around with maybe how round the top is. Maybe if you don't want the little pointy hat so much, maybe if you want to do some spots on the toadstool, you could do that as well. But this is absolutely my favorite one to make. It is a little bit bigger than some of the other ones that I'll show you, but I did want to give it pride of place and feature it first. I think I'll just go from largest to smallest. The second mushroom that I want to feature is by Pretty Little Things by Scheepjes. I'm not sure. No, does anyone actually know how to pronounce that outside of the land from which the yarn originates? Anyway, neither here nor there. It's the Scheepjes yarn. Y'all can just deal. This is a pattern by Esme Crick, and it is in UK terminology, so that's something to keep in mind. But in general, not that hard to just think every time you see double crochet, you really mean single crochet if you're doing it in US terms. For this one, as I stitched it together, I kind of fudged a little bit, and you can see that underneath. It's not perfect, but I also really like how the gills happen under here. I think it's a really great kind of three-dimensional effect that you get. And I also like on the foot how she asks you to go in the back loops only, so that it does have a little bit of almost like a flat base. It gives you a little bit more of that naturalistic idea. Neither this mushroom nor the last one did I stuff at all, so that gives it a little bit of kind of free form, kind of motion maybe, in the same way that mushrooms, when you see them out in nature, they're not these cookie cutter things. They're very interestingly formed, interestingly shaped. They grow in strange ways. They find their way to do what they need to do. I love those little decomposers. They're so useful and they're so helpful out in nature. And I love how the uniqueness of them can really be reflected in an imperfect piece of crochet. For my third set of mushrooms, it is actually a set, and it is from the My Crochet Shop Autumn Garland. You might wonder what I am doing pulling just the mushrooms from someone else's garland, but that's what we do as creatives, right? We pick and choose the pieces that we want, and so I thought that these were some beautiful little mushrooms from this autumn garland, and I wanted to share them with you. So there are 3 different ones. There is one that is kind of a flat shape, and for this you just have a solid color all around, and you have your separate little mushroom stem there. Very petite, very sweet, very nice and rounded. You can kind of shape it as you will. Then we have one that's more of what I would call like morel shape, a steeper point up top. It kind of does go up underneath. It has a little bit of a lip under there that hangs over. Another beautiful woodland mushroom shape. And then the third one flares out just a little bit more, and it has a bit of a frill, a bit of a picot edging there, which I thought was really wonderful. You know, when you're looking at mushrooms in nature or looking at maybe even a book of mushrooms, you see so much variety. And so what I really loved about these 3 mushrooms was the variety that was inherent in each of their separate little shapes. And I thought it would be a really fun addition to have these within my garland in those kind of unique shapes. The last mushroom that I want to feature is by Amigurumi To Go. Super sweet little mushroom here. It has kind of a thicker foot there, and the cap does hang over, and you do have a little bit of where you stitch these 2 together. This is the 2-inch toadstool, and I just think it is so sweet. These would be really great if you're thinking of like a button mushroom. Aside from this crochet along, if you're maybe making some crocheted play food, maybe for a child, these would be a great addition. Those are that really sweet kind of button mushroom shape, that shape that you might find at the supermarket. So love how tiny that is, how petite that is. I added a few little stitches of the same color of the foot up in the cap there. So those are the mushroom patterns that I found and wanted to feature for y'all this week. Let me know if you have a favorite of those. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'm really glad to have you along with this crochet along. This video is being added to the playlist. That whole playlist for this crochet along will be linked in the description. And if you do happen to be a YouTuber or even on Instagram, if you'll do that little hashtag there, that'll help me find your videos and see what you're excited about making from these ideas for this autumn garland. If for whatever reason I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do appreciate you, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye.